I'm back with Jane. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good. I know you said that there were some questions or things you wanted to discuss. You've obviously been many, 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 many years on a journey of seeking truth, as you call it, and your relationship with your source.
Yeah.
There are many others out there who've been doing it. There are many books out there. There are many approaches out there, and you just wanted to throw out some ideas and talk about what do I have a perspective from my journey.
Exactly so.
Okay, well,
One of the things that I've been reading a lot about and hearing a lot about is that there's a lot of talk about manifesting what you want.
right.
And what's your take on that? Because it's almost like people are saying, um, they're kind of talking about manifesting as if they're going on a shopping trip. And I'm thinking that is a very, I'm not sure what they mean by that or what their understanding is, and then I was wondering what your perspective might be.
Okay. Wow. I'm going to say this first. Taking into account the nature of the way we are as human beings, people are always seeking something in the physical or in the form because they believe it'll make them happy and give them what they want. I believe a lot of spiritual teachers and other people cater to that because that's how they sell. They sell their books. They sell their, if they find a way of giving someone
Yeah.
something, to a certain extent, you could almost use it comforting. So if you talk about manifestation, all right, I remember years ago, and it's still something today, which is the phrase creating your own reality. Okay. Both of them are two linked things, in my opinion.
Yes.
On a very, for me, on a simple way I look at it is, after going through all the time of struggle, trying to, it, I always wanted peace. I've told you this. I just wanted to be at peace with my life and be a better human being while I was here. Okay, that's really what I always wanted. I knew, like I think I've said this. I knew this as a kid, and for me, if you don't have a clear understanding, if one doesn't have a clear understanding, really, of the accurate information about what it is to be in a physical body in this environment, and then having a clear understanding of the relationship between ourselves and the universe and the source and God, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be a real messy journey. And then things like manifestation. Well, we manifest every single thing that happens in our life, good or bad. Hence, we create our reality. But most people have no idea really what that actually means and how to change that reality if it's manifesting stuff I'm not happy with. And that's why I talk to you about the most important thing is perception. Perception actually creates miracles.
Right.
All right? But most people have no idea about their perception because their perception is dramatically different from the reality of what's going on inside them. All right? I'll explain that a little bit more. Most human beings I meet, including myself, remember I said 80% of my perception that causes me particularly discomfort, emotional pain, negative thoughts, is inaccurate. Fortunately, I'm really appreciative that I realize I'm wrong all the time. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. My intuition is incredibly strong. I'm not talking about that because my intuition doesn't cause me necessary pain. What causes me pain is my perception that then argues or ignores my intuition. And that's the same for most people I know. Okay? Because what they're not telling themselves the truth about is their perception. So let me put it in simple practical terms that are relevant. Again, going back to my relationship with my two boys and their relationship with the world. When someone comes, as an example, one of my sons comes back and feels like he's not achieving what he wants, he's not manifesting what he wants, whether it's in his game of baseball or in his life, and he's not understanding why it's happening, or, you know, like, why is this happening to me? I mean, that's one of the most common human being phrases, why is this happening to me? Or he feels someone else is to blame for it, or the cause of why it's not happening. That's the gap I'm talking about between the perception and reality. Because his perception, according to him at that stage, is that it really is unfair and something outside of him or someone else is bringing about this manifestation, this reality. But there's no connection to what's really going on inside, in his own vibration, in his own focus of attention. Because most people have no awareness of it. All you have to do is look at the world today, and you will see people have got no idea. And yet, they have a lot to say, they have a lot of opinions, there's a lot of influences, and they lead in a whole bunch of people down a path of pain.
So when you say they have no idea, do you mean they have no idea of the relationship between what's going on with them and what's going on in the world?
Correct.
So that they're commentators on the world, but it's separate to them. There is no causal relationship or
well, there is to a certain extent.
There
is some to some extent, because most of the causal, or why they're doing what they're doing, is they've got a whole bunch of stuff going on inside. They're upset, they're angry, they're sad, all the negative stuff that's going on about the world, and they want to fix it. But where there is not a real connection to their perception is actually what's really driving it is if they could control everyone else's behavior and thinking, they would feel they'd be all right, they'd be happy, they'd be at peace, everything would be cool. That's an enormous perception to need to understand. It's the number one driver of every single human being on this planet, is to try and control the world around them, their environment, and their feelings, their thoughts. Okay. For example, I'm big on sport. I love sport. You know that. Okay. So I follow a lot of sports psychologists and the experts, and I listen to them endlessly talk about control your emotions. Good way to kill yourself pretty quickly, or not necessarily quickly, but it's if you're an athlete, it's a good way to make sure that you're going to fail when the time's right. You may have success for years, and then boom, it's going to get you. You cannot control your emotions. You cannot control anyone else's emotions. That's what I mean by the gap between the reality of their perception and the perception.
But people would say that you can control your emotions, and that if you didn't control your emotions, you wouldn't get anywhere in life. You know.
All right. So give me an example. What do you mean by control your emotions?
I mean, like, you need to have a mature attitude to certain things. Like, for example, if you have a tough time at work and you get some critical feedback or whatever, if you completely lose it, i.e. lose your temper when you get feedback.
That's not what I'm talking about.
So what are you talking about?
Okay, I'm not talking about that, because you see, there's a big difference between having an awareness, a real acute awareness through observation of how much, when the world comes and I interact with it in any shape or form, what goes on in my energy field, which is another word for emotions, energy in motion.
Yeah.
What goes on? And if it's, fear or stress or frustration, what I mean by trying to control it is people are, particularly, it happens a lot with athletes. What they try to do is pretend it's not happening, put it down. People in work probably do that because they can't express it. Like you said, they can't just lose their temper. Okay, right now in society, there's a lot of temper being lost, losing of temper and expression, because everyone on the public, the social media love it. Okay,
yeah.
So they're not trying to control their emotion. They're
At
trying to
all.
control other people's emotions.
Yeah.
They're trying to control other people's behavior. What I mean by that is I'm talking about actually starting to let it go. Have less attachment to it, because they mean nothing. They have no importance in the world other than to the person who's having them and maybe a few friends. but they actually bring about a manifestation or a reality that will never be good. 20,000 people going out on a protest for peace, all of whom actually are carrying an enormous amount of anger and hate and judgment, and even if they're right, they're carrying that energy. It's never going to make peace in this universe. It cannot do, because that would be defying the law of the universe.
Yeah.
All right. So if you've got someone, for example...
I do get that. I think they're very often people, march for peace or want a more peaceful world, or they say they do, but actually they're not peaceful, and they're not inclusive, and they're not kind, and that they're underneath it there is a degree of hate for other things that are going on in the world, and a desire to be right about all the other things, and overpower other people's perspectives so that everybody has got the same view.
Yes.
It feels like that to me sometimes.
Yeah, look, and a lot of it may be justified in the sense that they see things that they think are not right, okay, or
Yeah.
wrong. But remember what we've already talked about. Until someone embraces and truly understands being in the world but not of it, from a personal level, don't expect the reality in your life that you create or the manifestation to be what you want. It just won't happen. Now, does that mean there are some people who want to cause mayhem? That's okay. We're not talking about, I'm talking about, this is for people who genuinely want to improve the quality of their life, meaning how they really feel day to day. Do they feel more peace, more security, more joy, maybe better health, maybe more abundance, better relationships? That's what this is about. This is not about trying to convert people who are out to fix and control the world.
Isn't that very selfish, though, Anthony?
Selfishness actually is one of the most powerful states to truly master if you're going to make any difference in the world. Exactly.
Why do you say that?
Because otherwise all I'm trying to do is have people see the world my way and control other people so that I'll feel better. But if I focus on my feeling better or feeling good about myself, and I'm talking about my real self, not my human ego self, okay, just to clarify that in case people misunderstand that. If I'm genuinely feeling good about myself and I'm living my life in a way that we're talking about, my levels of judgment, wanting to change others, wanting to control others, diminishes enormously. So it's okay what's going on in the world. It's not my business.
That's a really difficult idea to get, in the sense that, because...
I didn't know we were trying to package it
No,
as
we're
easy
not.
ideas, because that's what most spiritual teachers are trying to teach people, which is just practice being happy, practice your law of, point of attraction, practice feeling good. But the moment something goes wrong, that's what, then you can resist and fight that. And worry about what everyone else is doing. I'm not putting a judgment on it. I'm not saying what people should do. I'm saying, for me, I practiced and did all the conventional stuff that's out there. It didn't work. And I know that it would never have worked for my family. And it probably wouldn't have worked for a lot of people I consider to be friends or important in my world. It just wouldn't have worked. Because my personality, my human nature, like most others, wants freedom, wants autonomy. So what does that lead to in the human context? Freedom and autonomy lead to wanting to control, advise, and know better than others, because we're not having the freedom and the autonomy we need as a spirit, because other people are stopping us because of the belief systems we operate under. Everyone's got this going on. Look, the beasts even have it. Every single animal on this planet wants freedom. We put them in a cage and we wonder why they go crazy, okay? Human beings are living in a cage of information that is erroneous. Now, there's a lot of people out there who believe they're living in a cage of persecution, or not, people didn't accept them because of their this and that. And they're not necessarily wrong, but they ain't going to find what they're really looking for through the way they're going about it. But that's a separate subject. All right. Because I don't want to get into that stuff, really. What I'm talking about is...
So when they talk about manifesting and the law of attraction, and I mean what I've understood, I've never been to any of those conferences or anything, but from what I've understood of it and the way people talk about it, is that it's about really focusing on what it is that you want in your life. Like, so if for example, you want to manifest more money in your life, more abundance in your life, then it is very important to get into the space of feeling abundant and looking and appreciating the abundance that there is already, and that the more that you do that, the more you will manifest that in your life.
Correct, I agree with that. Because everything's about vibration, everything's about non-physical energy, the source of this universe. The universe, you align with the universe, you align your energy with the universe, you get what you want. Does that work for everyone? No, because there are steps that need to be done first. Because the problem is, I had a great spiritual teacher by the name of Jack Boland. Okay? And Jack once put it beautifully. He said, if you take a bucket of water that is dirty, because what it's got inside of it is a whole bunch of rusty old nails.
Yeah.
And he said, and the problem is what people do with information like that about, what I want to feel is I want to feel abundant in that, which is a good start, by the way,
Yeah.
because obviously it's important. The problem is you can empty that bucket of water and then fill it with new fresh water, but
the nails
the
are
harsh
still there.
part is taking the nails out, which
Yeah.
is the part I'm talking about, which is the really learning to observe what is really going on in my energy field, because it's not comfortable.
So it's not. So I hear what you're saying is, or what I'm interpreting from what you're saying is that it's not just about thinking positive.
Correct. Does that work for some people? Absolutely. By the way, it has worked. There's all the books that have been written over the years, and a lot of people were on the right path about it. I'm talking about if you're someone who, generally speaking, is what we consider for the most part a relatively decent human being in this world. Okay, you kind of try to be kind. You're not going out of your way to hurt people, and there's a lot of decent people out there right now, but they're operating under, in my opinion, wrong information, and they can't understand why it seems like they're not manifesting the things that they say they want. And I think it's because there's information that they're operating out of erroneously. If I practice every day, for me, I practice every day, reminding myself from the moment I wake up in the morning, and I feel it in my body. I'm coming back into my body. I feel it when I come back into my body in the morning. I can feel the physical resistance I go through. And I have to and it's overwhelming in the morning for me. When I wake up in the morning, it is not easy. Okay? And I have to remind myself in that moment, I'm coming back into my body. I am a non-physical being. I am infinite awareness. And what's going to happen is there's going to be lots of thoughts and feelings that I've already started to experience and sensations when I come into my body. They are not who I really am, and they are temporary. They feel very real, and they are real in the physical. But they're not who I am, and they're not real in the sense that I can let them be.
So they're your rusty nails.
They are my rusty nails. And I've got rid of a lot of rusty nails, but there's rusty nails you will never get rid of in a physical body, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone has their own rusty nail that they will never get rid of in a physical body. But there's a way to relate with them so they have no power.
So what's a big rusty nail that you think that you've probably got rid of?
Believing that other people control my joy, and my feeling good about myself. Okay?
Believing that other people
People
control your joy.
joy, or influence my joy, or have power over it. Okay, I'm not totally through that one, but the rusty nail is no longer the way it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are there times I still hit up against it every now and then? But when I do, I giggle because I feel it coming up. I observe it, and I just remind myself, this is not who I am. It has nothing to do with my source. It is not of God. It's so important that it is not of God. It's only of the physical. And I have to remind myself of this probably, without exaggerating, 30 times a day. It comes in relationship to something.
Yeah.
That what is happening right now and what I'm feeling right now, what my body is doing right now. Even when I got cancer, and they told me I had cancer, in that moment, the first thing I went to, because I'd done enough practice and training, was, okay, my body has cancer, but that's not who I am. Okay?
Yeah.
I was amazed at the time how low the level of fear was. All right? There was even a joy, because I turned around to the doctor and I said to him, this is great. It's like part of my process of becoming more aware, more awake. And I said, and I really have a suspicion as to why I brought that towards me. And I said, and I'm going to do some work on it. And what will be, by the way, what will be, you know. And then when moments came up when I thought, well, what happens if it really does and all that? Because people tell you that, all the feedback you get of the world. And I thought, yeah. But Anthony, you don't have control over your physical body.
No.
But I do have control over where I put my attention on. I do have control
Yeah.
over my perception. I do have control over what I think and feel. That's the one thing I have control over. And that's what I work on every day. Am I perfect at it? No. Will I ever be perfect at it? No. I used to be someone who thought I had to be perfect before I could live.
Right.
Okay? That was, if I was going to do something, I had to be perfect at it. All right? I think that was part of my upbringing. It had to be right. Okay? And then I realized, well, part of it was, why it had to be right was that created control. Because when it's not perfect and it's not going right, I'm out of control. Now what do I do with it? So I've got much more used to it. You know, I actually get joy where before I used to have pain.
So I think that's really interesting, and what that sparks in me about you've got to be perfect before you begin is so many things, in terms of I won't be happy until I've got this.
Correct.
Whether it's a relationship, whether it's the body you want, whether it's money, whether it's whatever that there is externally. When I've got all of those different pieces in place, then I can begin.
Okay, and that's okay.
Which has got a kind of insanity about it.
Of course,
really.
it's totally insane. There's no right or wrong, and that's the other thing.
And that's why people are looking for a silver bullet.
Yes.
Things like law of attraction and manifesting. It's
Because
I can use that to get what I want, and then I can begin.
There's a beautiful terminology in baseball called stealing second base.
Yeah.
Which means I don't actually go to first base. And the first base I'm talking about, which is the hard part, is learning to be the observer of what's really going on inside me in relationship to things that are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know they're important to you? Is a question you may ask. Very simple. That's the contrast. That's the power of the contrast. So let me give you an example. I remember years ago, someone who said to me, you should be a teacher, of the life journey. I flipped out inside. The feelings I had inside of fear, anger, were extraordinary. But if I sat in my chair and meditated about being a nuclear physicist or a rocket scientist or even running the biggest corporation, I had no reaction to it, none whatsoever. Really interesting. You could pick 30 things out there that people want to be: pop stars, rock stars. And if I thought, Anthony is a rock star, nothing whatsoever. No stuff, nothing. But being a teacher and a guide and a help to others, as opposed to being the broken wing, getting everyone else to fix me, boy, oh boy, did I have a reaction to that one.
Because you didn't feel good enough, or
No,
you weren't
because that
perfect
was
enough, or
because, well, it triggered all that stuff.
right.
All right, that's what it triggered. Who am I? I'm not worthy. Look how messed up I am. Spawn of the devil. All that stuff came up, and it was only when it took me, God, 30 years to start understanding that was why I came in here. I chose to come in here to overcome that stuff so that I could maybe then make a difference, a contribution to like my kids and people on what it's going to take for them to live their dreams. All right, if they
Right.
have them, as opposed to like by the time most people are 20 or 30, just give up and go for let's get married, have kids, and everything will be great. And then the poor damn kids end up like they are
Yeah.
today in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not, and I say those things with tongue in cheek because I actually don't have any judgment or issue about it. It's quite funny actually watching it, watching myself and watching the world. It's actually very amusing because, as you say, there's a level of insanity that is quite extraordinary. And the beautiful thing is, everyone is manifesting their reality. They're all creating it. We all are. No one is doing it to us, but yet so many of us think it's been done to us. I really believed that someone could give me the blessing, the permission, the authority to be who I am. I really did believe. I grew up most of my life believing that because I believed it was someone else.
What, you had to make it with someone else before
that-
you could do what it is.
And
that-
God was the last one I started to look at
Wow.
when I'd gone through everyone else, when I'd gone through the key people in my life, and then I realized, well, you know what, this may have something to do with God. And I had to challenge my nails in relationship to my beliefs and understanding about God.
Your rusty nails.
Yeah, and I had to go deep, deep, deep inside and see how much I blamed God, accused God, or believed that God was doing. Okay, from traditional, what's out there, including New Age spirituality, right? Because if you're someone who really thinks it's just going to come through being positive, I'm going to get the law of attraction by positive thinking and feeling, you're going to experience enormous failure. And guess what? After a while, you're going to start feeling resentment. You're going to start thinking this doesn't work. And you're not wrong, but that's the stuff that was there to begin with. Because while you're still waiting for God, or for your father, or for your mother, or your boyfriend, or your teacher to acknowledge you enough and approve of you enough to realize how amazing you are, forget this lifetime. You're probably going to have a few more lifetimes of creating a world that's going to show you you're not good enough. And the universe is so loving and magnificent in its purity because we'll go through maybe 100 lifetimes until one day an individual will say, wait a minute, I think something's not right here. Maybe this has got nothing to do with what anyone else is doing. That's what I had to go through, all right? I'm not telling anyone else what they should do, but I know it dramatically changed my life and it started to work for me. And I noticed at the same time, while it worked for me, my judgment of others, my wanting, like I said, to control them, I don't know. I wonder how many people really spend time thinking about, in relationship to their own kids, how much energy they put into saying, I need to get out of the way. Because there's every argument not to. Because the whole society is based on the fact that we must know more than them. We must be, I've lived my life and and all that stuff, all right?
So what do you mean by get out of the way?
Every single day I work on being conscious, being aware of where I'm in the way of my boys in terms of my wanting to contribute to their lives with my ideas about what they could do, what they shouldn't do. I'm not saying that I don't participate with it. Do you understand that? That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, you let your kids just be. I do that first before I interact with them. And then when I screw up when I'm interacting with them, and you witnessed it, I got lectured by both of them yesterday,
Yeah.
justifiably, and I love it. But it's not easy. It's painful. And that's the part I'm trying to say that I think is not It's not a good salesman who says you're going to buy this car, there's a good chance it's going to break down. Okay? I'm saying to you, if you really want a better quality of life, in the beginning, it's going to be painful, because starting to stop and really observe what's going on inside you, and see how much you really believe this is who I am. And that's one of the most painful things. When you start getting, God, look how much I believe this about myself. And I'm the one who's resisting giving this up. And it's not bringing me anything good. It's not fun. But it's incredibly rewarding.
I think that's so interesting. There's I was thinking about the conversation we were having yesterday, and I noticed that I've got an idea it was about my husband, but I hadn't noticed I'd got that idea until we had a conversation, and I started talking about it, and then I thought, my perspective, my perception of this is completely coming out from me.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with him.
Correct. And that's just
And I thought I'd really done some work on that, I really did, and I thought, can't believe I've been sitting with this experience for about, I don't know, 6 months, and not realizing, not being aware of that. I just thought I was right.
And we are very often right, okay, in that sense. That's the truth. I mean, do I feel there are things that I'm right in relationship to my boys? I'm right about certain things that I observe. I am right. I've proved right. But that's not the point. Because you see, the point is, for me, the point was and is about understanding that what's going on inside me, my perception, is not bringing me peace.
Exactly,
and it's not
so.
connecting me with the love that I want to have for them.
Exactly so.
It's not creating an unconditional love. Okay? And
exactly so.
then when I go to them to talk to them about the stuff I'm right about, I'm puzzled by why I get such a bad reaction.
Yeah.
Well, that's the non-physical magic of vibration, because we can't see it and feel it. We know this. I mean, I think most people on this planet understand this on some level, that when you sometimes let go enough, it's amazing what can happen. But it's hard to let go of things that are really close to us and important until I start understanding that the I am that is holding on to that is not who I am. It's the physical. I'm here for a while, okay? And it's temporary. And remember one thing, every promise, and I think I may have said this, every promise that my human identity makes to me, every promise, and it's going on in the world right now, there's a lot of people who believe that the promise has been made about, if we take this politics on or we take that stuff on, will give us the freedom, the autonomy we want, ultimately, or the blessing. It will never happen. It will not happen. And that's, if we were to get in the real details of that, we'd have to talk about that some other time. But on a personal level, every promise, because I know the promises my human consciousness has made and makes to me, because I've faced it, and I've gone into it, and it's horrible some days, because it's very, very strong and feels very real. The energy behind it is unbelievable. And I know it's a lie, because guess what? I know I'm going to die. And believe you me, the human consciousness is, on some level, is trying to promise us, you'll be okay with me. You'll survive. Okay? And then if you take it out of the death one to the next level, we trust it and we make decisions based on it that affect our day-to-day life. None of the every promise it makes about security, about well-being, about autonomy, about self-empowerment, it cannot happen.
Well, when you say every promise it makes, what it?
The human consciousness. Human consciousness, it may be slightly different and unique for each one of us because we're different personalities living in different parts of the world. But I'll tell you what, it's a similar theme that's been there from the beginning. trust and belief in me, meaning the I am, my ego,
Yeah.
the ego I am,
I'll
all right?
see you okay.
Yeah, and people make decisions out of it. That's what all the people out there are who are getting caught up right now in what's going on in the world are believing. Okay? And I don't want to go down that line because it gets messy. But on a personal level, if I had to find those nails because they were in me of why was it so important? Why was I living my life like the way I was? Okay, why were my relationships like they were? Why were things happening? And when I dug deep enough and I pulled it back enough and I kind of just kept forcing myself to go through the fear was incredibly strong. Okay, and this is the part that I find interesting because it's not something, by the way, I'm not saying the great masters were not afraid to talk about the fear we were going to face. Okay? I believe even it's quoted even in Jesus' thing, fear not, which means you are going to get fear. He wasn't saying don't feel fear. He was trying to explain, probably, and it wasn't written in English, by the way, but someone decided to use that to manipulate people. But you are going to hit fear because fear is an energy that is so strong in the human consciousness. It doesn't exist in spirit. I don't believe it does. Okay? Otherwise, this universe would be so messed up. Could you imagine? All right? And I look at the universe. I literally look to the sky. I look to the nature around me. I look to the beasts and everything, and it's abundant and it is working perfectly. But the fear inside the human energy, the human vibration, is so strong and dominating because we believe our survival will be threatened all the time by silly things, and there's no right or wrong in it. I had to really get there's no right or wrong because it's so strong the right or should or shouldn't.
Yeah,
it was just what did I really want? I wanted to, like I say, I just wanted to wake up during the day and feel some peace and have some joy and know it's okay.
Yeah.
And know that I could manage my life and I could love and I could do things. And that's what, in the end, drove me to say, okay, there's got to be something, because I couldn't find it out there. And I'm not saying anyone was right or wrong, but what I did not find out there was enough of this understanding that what the great masters said was there is one consciousness or one stream of consciousness, one vibration in this universe, that of the source, the creator, whatever you want to call it. And that is not what most of us experience day to day in the universe, in Earth. We don't experience it. The one we experience, the one we worship, the one we pray to, the one we try and control, actually is probably the closest thing to the devil that exists. And we believe it. Okay?
Yeah.
And most people who would argue with me right now, and I understand there would be many who will argue with me, may benefit by just taking a few minutes to quieten themselves down and go inside and look what's there. I asked my boys one day, I said, tell me something, what do you think would happen if a teacher walked into your class one day and there's 15, 20 kids, and they said, okay, this is what's going to happen. You're going to sit, and you're going to breathe, and you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to look within and see what's really going on. What is the energy that's coming up in you? What are the thoughts, feelings, sensations? And if you don't do it for 10 minutes, you will die. You'll be shot. I'm not going to shoot you. There's something in this room that will shoot you. So you're going to do it. I said, what do you think would happen? And they said they couldn't do it. You couldn't do it for 1 minute. I said, well, there you go. See, so most people who are wanting a better life haven't even done that properly. Just sit there and actually just be with what's really going on inside them. And not try and get enlightened, not just observe what's going on there. Hey, listen, when I first started really doing this stuff, and I first started doing it 40 years ago, but that wasn't as real as it got much later in life, because when I first started doing it, I was doing it according to books I was reading and stuff like that, with my habitual patterns, lack of understanding. But when you really start doing it, not easy, because you want to do something about it. You want to fix what's going on. Because who likes that? I didn't like it. I didn't like feeling that. I didn't think I was like that kind of person. All right.
Yes.
But I realized, yeah, but Anthony, you've got to start understanding at the same time what this is showing you is this is not who you are, showing you how much you believe it still.
Yes.
And I believe this. Yeah, I believe this. And I could hear myself argue.
Yes. I mean, if you try and sit and be quiet with yourself, you start thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
I start thinking about stuff. And then I start having judgments about what I'm thinking and the
Yeah.
fact that I'm thinking. And I think, right, well, I need to stop, and I need to stop that thinking so that I can be quiet in myself, so I can begin. Right? Again, it's
Just-
that thing of, this doesn't really count. I need to get rid of this before I can start.
You know, the Transformers
So that is non-acceptance.
No.
That is an example.
of resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Francis Hosen and the Transformers gave me a great one to do a few years back. I didn't do it all to begin with, but they gave it to me. You know, when I first started it, there was a part of me who thought, yeah, so what? What difference does this make? And they said to me, observe the consciousness going through your energy field. There are two types. They said, keep it that simple. There's the distracting consciousness, distracting you from your connection to source.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the in-between one. And I said, okay, just say in-between, like you're kind of talking about like the meaningless, like what's for lunch? What's the baseball score? You know, and they said, yeah. And they said, just observe both without any judgment. Just observe them. Don't even try and control it.
So what was the first one?
Observe the thoughts that are distracting you from your source.
Like,
I'm not good enough. I'm unworthy.
Alright.
Those people don't like me.
this is never going to work.
Yeah, it's all the stuff that is judgment based about who we are in this, who I am, and what's happening in the world that affects me. Okay, as opposed to, you know, what's for lunch, and it was
Or I've got an itch on my arm.
it was mind blowing,
Yeah.
mind blowing. Okay, I mean it's actually quite funny because of course it, you know, it's still going on inside me, but I'm so much more aware of it now. I just laugh at it, you know, and the ones that obviously are more troublesome are the ones that are what I call distract me from who I am and my connection to source. Because they, in other words, it's the ones that hook me into believing the I am that is telling me something is wrong in the world, something is wrong in my life, something's wrong with my kids, something is not good enough. If only they would change their behavior, that kind of stuff. That's the one that's really distracting because it's, whoa, this is not about anything out there. What is going on here? I changed my perception. Okay?
It's interesting that because of those distracting thoughts seem to be external, you know, and they
Of course.
either they might be about you, you know, they might be about me, but they're me in relation to stuff, right? So they might be me in relation to me, you know, I'm not worthy of this, I can't really get to this place, I can't get there, or I'm not as good as they are at this, you know, therefore it's going to take me ages.
Okay,
and,
so that's
yeah,
one side. The other side is they're not listening.
they're not listening.
They don't
yeah.
understand me. Okay,
Yeah.
right now they don't like me
Yeah.
because I'm fat, ugly, black, white, whatever. Okay, you know,
Yeah.
whatever my sexual preferences, they don't like me. They're judgmental. They're privileged. You know, whatever. That's all distracting. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's distracting me from the fact that it may all be true. But what's it got to do with my business and my relationship with the source
Yeah.
in my life? What has it got to do with me being the extension of the source, of God? That's how I had to keep bringing it back to them. What's
Yeah.
this got to do with me? Yeah, but you know what? Right now, yeah, I know. You see, it's funny in a way, which is we're a strange bunch, human beings, because we are the only creatures on this planet that are hypocrites and frauds. Every one of us. Every single person who's walked this planet since day one is a hypocrite and a fraud. Okay? I'm not saying it with judgment. What a wonderful thing it is when you come to make peace with the hypocrite and the fraud in you. because that's the devil. And when you start understanding, yes, it's there, but it's not who I am, and I actually can start letting it go. But I can't let it go. I can't give it up. I can't forgive it, okay? Cannot give it up until I admit it, until I come face to face with it and say, you know what? You may be scary, you may have enormous power, but actually I have more power because I'm an extension of the creator of this universe. I am the true manifester or creator in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy. I suppose also what I'm saying, Jane, is I think there's a lot of BS out there that's taught in the name of God and spirituality. There really is. Or psychology, okay? And, you know, have I always had a desire to shortcut that for some people and say, look, if you really want to make a difference in your life, start waking up. And part of the waking up is understand you need to get some new information about what's real. And it's physics, all right? It really is physics. That's what the great teachers taught. They taught about energy. The Ten Commandments was about energy. Jesus' teachings were about energy. Buddha's teachings were about energy, consciousness, all right? They really were. And there've been many others, by the way. I'm just quoting three of the most powerful, knowledgeable ones, you know. And many have plagiarized the stuff and done better out of it, probably personally, than those guys did. You know, especially when they sold it and influenced and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Simply because it's very easy to do that with human beings.
Yeah, and I think because there's that desire. I think there's a desire for meaning
Yes.
and for personal meaning, and people don't know how, and they look for somebody who looks like they do know how, and who can lead them on not a very painful path
Correct. Yeah. And,
towards
you know,
it, so that you can buy it
Yeah.
in a series,
But you won't have to do it.
and you won't actually have to do it.
Yeah.
That is so right. I think that is the definition of the silver bullet. I have the bullet. I don't actually have to get involved. I bought the thing, and enlightenment will be conferred upon me.
You know, it's fascinating though when you think about how we operate on a day-to-day basis, because I believe that every single person on this planet, every single person, inherently in their DNA, if you want to call it their, even in the human DNA, but through the human DNA, it's porous enough that they know there is a connection to God or their source. That's why people seek it, okay, on some level.
Yes.
Aligned with that thing about freedom and autonomy. So of course, you know, to some people, freedom and autonomy literally does mean, I don't know, having a war. Makes them feel alive. All right? I'm not going to pass judgment on that, what's right or wrong. You know, for some people it's maybe doing something, you know, being in a street gang and doing stuff, because it gives them a sense of empowerment, freedom. I understand that, why they do that, okay? And it's okay if that's what they want to do. But it's interesting how many people who are not wanting to walk that path are putting all their energy into that path by getting involved in it, by judging it, by thinking they're going to fix it, or criticizing it, or stuff like that, and they don't understand the damage they're doing to themselves. And then they wonder when something happens to them. You know, something really bad can happen to some people because what they do is they're in the wrong place at the wrong time because something inside them interfered, what's not their business, even with a good intention.
Right.
Okay, I'm a missionary. I can go and save the world. From what? I mean, think about it logically. If I'm an asshole, seriously, and I'm full of stuff that is actually taking me further, disconnecting me from source, which is, by the way, on a mass scale, it's massive in this universe, okay? How can I go and try and convert someone else and convince someone else about God when I'm so disconnected? All right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like the number of people who drive past someone who on the side of the road or in a ditch with their car broken down, and they get in the ditch with them and think that they are good Samaritans. Take them out the ditch if they want to come out the ditch. Offer them a hand. But there are some people who don't want your hand, but are you even aware of it? Or are you so wrapped up in, I can save people and fix people? Because what's really going on is it's causing a lot of trouble in me, because my belief system is what's happening out there is real. Because I'm caught in the physical. So in the physical world that I believe it must be real. You know, and when you ask that question about where's God in all of that? Well, it's not, because it's got nothing to do with spirit. Okay? Because that's just our fantasy that God actually cares about it or is watching it or involved in it. I don't think that my opinion is it doesn't even exist in spirit, because the universe, we ain't going anywhere. We may go somewhere as physical beings, but we ain't going anywhere in terms of being eternal or infinite awareness.
I mean, that's
which is
another,
great. It's a great security level when you get that.
Yeah, but that's a whole other level.
Yes, I understand.
I
It is a whole other level.
Yeah.
Let's deal with the more practical stuff,
Yeah.
the day to day. Anyway, all right. Well, anything else you want to wrap this one up with?
No, I think that we've got to a good place.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.